Welcome to Two Kids, One Doctor. I am your host, Dr. Soyla Quesada. And in this series, I am interviewing women who identify as single mothers. And I'll have women throughout the series. I'll be asking them the same five questions, and it will be eye-opening how different the stories are for each of them. With us today, we have Ashton. Ashton is a mompreneur, a coach, consultant, a mom of one boy, as well as a bonus mom. She is on a mission to live her best life. Okay, aren't we all? Welcome, Ashton.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to this conversation today. It's a very important topic.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us. So let's start with the first question. Can you share a pivotal moment in your journey as a single mother that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, so I would say that my pivotal moment was when my son was 1 and I decided to separate from his father. It wasn't a healthy relationship, and I knew that how I wanted to raise him wasn't aligned with the way his father wanted to raise him completely. And I wanted to ensure that I was in a position to parent the way I wanted to parent. And so I decided to end things, and it was really hard. And even because it was like that year actually after giving birth when I was pregnant, I knew I didn't want to stay with him. So that first year, it was just hard knowing that and actually dealing with those feelings and then actually really, really saying, okay, yeah, this is not what I'm choosing to do with my life. That was the hardest decision and the best decision that I could have made. And for me, single motherhood, I was always like when I was growing up, didn't want to be a single mom because my mom was a single mom, and I did not want to repeat that journey at all. However, my son's father is in his life, and we still do have a relationship. So but 95% of everything is on me. So I still consider myself a single mom. I am a single mom most of the time, and I do get some support at times. So yeah.
That's awesome. Similar to me, my kids were really young. My youngest wasn't one yet when I decided this wasn't going to be it, right? For how what I wanted my kids to see as an example of a marriage. Um, but their dad is not involved at all. So I'm glad that, the dad is involved somehow, although as there is a spectrum in terms of experiences of single mothers, you're still doing about 95% of the work. So commending you for that because we can do all things, right? So let's go with
True.
number two. So what have been some of your biggest challenges and how have you learned to navigate them?
That is a loaded question. Funny. It's a great question though. Challenges. Wow, I face challenges all the time as a single parent. And depending on the age, depending on there's so many challenges. Like even this morning, every morning right now, my challenge is just getting my son to school because he likes to take 30-minute showers, which is good on one hand because it's like, yay, you're a clean boy, right? And on the other hand, what are you doing in there? But some wow, that question just like blows blows my mind. There's so many. Um, I would say that one challenge that I embrace is continuing to move forward through whatever comes my way. So whatever it is, I know that I can get through it. I know that I have the resources to get through it. I know that by taking care of me, my body, my mind, my spirit, that's going to help me show up for my son in the way that that he needs. And even when I don't have my best moments, um, I know that he's still going to be okay because I've built a solid foundation for him. And so I've learned to embrace the challenges versus run from them versus get angry. Now, I did not start there. Oh, oh no. Yeah, I have had my share of screaming and all kinds of stuff. However, I know that I worked very hard, doing coaching, therapy, all kinds of things to ensure that I can be grounded for him because I know that if he see I'm his model, I'm his example. So if he can see me get through challenges and he sees the things that I'm doing for myself to be okay, he takes those on. Like sometimes my son's like, "Hey mom, can I take a bath and with Epsom salt?" And then he's like getting my little tray so he could put I don't even know what on. And then he's like, "Oh, and give me some tea." So those are things. Yeah, get some tea. He knows. And sometimes he's like, "Well, mom, you haven't been taking baths. Like, remember you used to yell at me when I used to come in the bathroom? Like, why aren't you doing that anymore?" And I'm like, "You know what? You're right. I do need to take more baths again. I've just been too busy." So yeah.
And that's great. Self-care, okay? That's amazing that he's seeing that in you too, and he's practicing it. So that's perfect segue to the next question. How do you balance self-care and work and parenting? And what advice would you share with other single mothers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I had to completely change my life to do that. So, when my son was younger, I'd go get my nails done or, take care of myself in those ways. I would meditate, do all of those things. However, my work life there was no self-care in the work life. I was working long hours, super busy. I remember when Braden was in kindergarten. And I worked from home. I've been working from home pretty much my whole career. But one day I went to his school and I realized I didn't go eat lunch with him pretty much the whole year. And he was literally like not even 5 minutes away from me. And I was sitting at home and I was like, wow, I've been so busy. I didn't even think about that. Um, so I decided in 2020 to completely shift my life, my work life to match the to match what I wanted to do for myself in terms of self-care. So I let go of all of my clients and I completely started over. And that was very painful just because losing a bunch of money, I turned down so many clients, turned down so many jobs, but I knew that I wanted a life where self-care and my family was a priority, and and while making money. So now 4 years later or 5 years later now, I've created that life where like this morning, I started the day, I went to the gym, I dropped Braden off, I did some work, then I went to the gym, then did a hair mask, like. And I was actually talking to my sister. She's like, "Well, I thought you said you had a busy day." And I was like, I do. However, because I have structured my life to prioritize self-care and my family, I have time to do those things. And I told her, well, it's fine. I'll work a little bit tomorrow on Saturday, but because I want to, because I decided to take 30 minutes to do a hair mask versus do client work. But I can work tonight if I want to and happily because I was able to take care of myself. And then tomorrow, yeah, I do have to get some work done. But I would say I have been very adamant about structuring my life. Like yesterday, I needed to take my son to get a physical, and I felt pressure to do it after school. And I was like, no, we're going to go during school. And so in the morning, I didn't get as much done with my clients. However, so I stayed the night before. I knew I had to do that. So I actually kind of pulled an all-nighter working, which not something I typically do, but I knew that, okay, let me do this tonight so that tomorrow will be a little, will be won't be as hectic, and then I could still take care of myself, take care of my family. So yeah, those are some things that I've incorporated into my life.
That's awesome. And yes, you can tell them and tell yourself, I'm comfortable doing this hair mask because that's the beauty of this owning a business and working your own hours. Like, I'm going to be comfortable and totally fine working on a Saturday morning while my kids are watching TV. Like, like I'm okay with that. So, like, having that balance is something that owning a business grants you, like running your own business grants for you. And as a single mom, we need that flexibility, right? Because like you said, we also have to do everything, the doctors, the the school stuff, the pickups, the drop-offs. So it does allow us for that also to be present with our children.
Yes, I wouldn't have it any other because I have to be present because I'm a single mom and I do drop off pickup and I do have a husband who's not my child's father. However, he works like like I think yesterday he went to work at like 1 in the morning and he came home at 6 p.m. And I was like, whoa. So, yes, he helps me financially, but however, with my child, because that's his goal, that's his journey. He wants to work a lot. So, I'm still a single mom, having to ensure everything is together.
Mhm.
And that flexibility is really important for me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I have to have flexibility.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Ashton, for that. So tell me what you think a misconception is about single motherhood or a narrative that you would like to see shifting.
You know, that the saying that, you can't have it all. And especially as a single mom, I that was not modeled to me. Um, I became an entrepreneur because in college, my mentor, I saw her living this life where we would work, but we would work at home and she would travel around the world. And then she continued to do that when she had her daughter. And her daughter, for like the first 10 years of her life, just went to school around the world. It was incredible. And so seeing that modeled also lets me know that it's possible. So I think that as women, as single moms, that we can have it all, and it just may not be at one time, and it may take us longer to get there. So I, when I was shifting my life and firing clients and getting new clients, I noticed that sometimes I would feel frustrated with my work life. And I sat and did some reflection, journaling, and I discovered that, oh, you've only thought of your life as Ashton without kids, without a husband. So you never thought about it with your responsibilities. So of course, with these responsibilities, it's going to be slower, or it can be, right? So when I thought about my life with my responsibilities, with the restrictions, like obviously school during school, because I do drop off pickup. I can get someone to help take Brayden to school, but they're not going to take him for 2 weeks. I can't get that. I can get a week, maybe 7 days, 8 days. But once I started to just accept that, my life got easier. And so much so that like this year I'm planning several trips. And I'm like, whoa, Ashton, you can have it all. You do have it all. It's just, first of all, it's not every day, which life is a roller coaster anyway. No one has it all every day. There is that balance. There are some times where you need to slow it down. So yeah, that's what I can share about that.
That's awesome, being able to do it. And for us, it takes time. Like I know, I remember at the beginning, I was like, I want to do it all, and then felt overwhelmed by doing it all at once, while also being having all the responsibilities around our kids. And then you find a balance, and you figure out what you're gonna take, what you're gonna leave, and what you're gonna feel comfortable and happy with. Like my kids were always with me. Now they're old enough where I'm like, bye guys, leaving with grandma, So, and life changes,
Yeah,
right?
it
It's
does.
like you said, it's a roller coaster, and for some moms with young kids, they might not have that freedom and flexibility at the moment, but they're gonna grow up so quickly. Like my kids, I'm like, when did this happen? My 12-year-old is like rather go to his room and be alone than with me on the living room. Where before I was like, guys, there's three
Yeah.
floors in this house. Why aren't we separate? Now, now like I don't even have to. I'm like, I miss y'all. Come back. All right. So what
I
legacy?
love that.
Go
I love
ahead.
that. And I also want to add something that my therapist told me. She said to have quality time with your kids. So sometimes like people think like, oh, I need to be with my kids all the time. That's being a good parent. But it's like, if I can give you all of me for this hour. Hey, you got an hour today of just total without me cleaning the kitchen, like doing all the mom things. But if I can give you this hour and not even watching TV, like how can we spend this? Sometimes maybe it's 30 minutes, but if I can give you this quality time to talk and chat and get to know each other better, like that is so valuable. And I try to do that as much as I can too.
That's awesome, Ashton. Thank you for that. And so the final question is, what legacy or values are you most intentional about passing on to your child?
Yeah, there's so many. One of the big ones is for him to find and have his joy and know what that feels like and looks like. Because in the world, there's just a lot out there. And specifically, as these kids are growing, they're growing up in a world that I'm not used to. Because thank God there wasn't social media when I was growing up. Yeah, I don't want none of those crazy pictures on the internet forever, uh, at all. So, him finding his joy, him being able to communicate how he feels, um, and also showing him different ways to live, different things like outside of the box, helping him know that, yeah, sometimes you have to live in the box, like Brayden. Okay, just because you missed school yesterday morning, guess what? You still got to make up those assignments. Like that's in the box. But showing him, having him travel, see different people, see different things. Those are things that I want him. They're just so useful for him to grow into a well-rounded person. That's going to be the greatest gift that I could give him is how do you do that? So like this summer, I asked him, did he want to do summer camp? And he said no. And I was like, well, you can either do summer camp or mommy camp. And he's like, well, what's mommy camp? And last summer, I was actually pretty busy working a big project for some of my clients, so I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked. But this year is completely different. So I'm like, mommy camp is we're gonna get computers. I'm gonna give you a prompt. You're gonna be an AI.
Oh,
We're gonna go to
awesome.
the museum. You're gonna do a project on it, like all kinds of stuff. And then yeah, 2 days you get to do whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot structured so that I can start really shaping his mind to be able to think big, more,
Mhm.
bigger, but to also know how to take on challenges. So like yesterday when we went to the AT, I was going to deposit money into the ATM, but then I was like, you know what? Here, you do it. And so I was like, okay, you got to flip the money right. You got, like all these things. And it's like,
Skills,
as
life
parents,
skills.
life skills are just as important as knowing math and English and even Spanish. Those life skills are really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love those values and the life skills. I'm currently homeschooling, I would say unschooling my youngest child, and I find that so valuable. Like, you know, let's go somewhere and do something that you will need to be functional in the world. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And I do hope that there's moms out here that are listening, whether they identify as a single mom or not. I think that as we share more with each other, we get to learn more, create more community as well. As a parting question for you, what is one last advice or guidance that you would share with other moms?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be real. Like motherhood is not easy. Like on Mother's Day a couple days ago, I was like, dang, like I just don't want to do anything. However, I'm thinking, yeah, but if you don't do anything, it's still going to be there. Like it's not like okay, you get away with it,
It doesn't disappear. I'm
It
like
doesn't.
blushing
It
just the thought
doesn't.
of all the things that I have to do that just don't disappear. Like they have to get
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, even my husband like cleaned the house for me, cleaned the kitchen. He cooked for me on Mother's Day, which is super sweet and nice, and I'm super grateful. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And you missed the bathrooms, and you missed like I have a long laundry list that still needs to be done. So, parting words is just embracing those moments and also embracing your humanness with your kids because before the pandemic I was like kind of a robot in the sense of my son didn't get to see those ups and downs and me freaking out and just myself as a human. And now I've given myself permission. Well, during the pandemic I couldn't hide it, so we were having a bad day and crying all kinds of stuff, and that has given him permission to be more human. So I talk to my son about as much as is appropriate And I find that that's super helpful. It's just to be a human, show them that we're not robots, we're not meant to be robots. And letting them, pulling the curtain back as much as you're comfortable with to let them truly see what you go through, what your challenges are. Like my son's like, you're yelling at me. And it's not that I like to yell, but and then I had to think about it because there's someone's like, you're yelling at me. Hold on, that's an issue. And I was like, well, that means I'm out of control, first of all. That's a reflection of where I'm at. And then I'm like, hold on, but no, I didn't start that way. This is the third or fourth time that I'm telling you the same thing. So of course I'm a little angry. Like,
Yes.
wouldn't you be angry if you're telling someone the same thing three, four times? So yeah, those are some of
Yes.
some of my tips.
That's wonderful because I know I've taken that approach as well because when I was growing up, I don't know when my mom was having a hard time. I didn't even know, mothering was challenging. I was just like, I know I had not the most structured life because I also am a daughter of a single mom. I'm actually fourth generation single mom, which I didn't realize till maybe last year when I was recording a podcast and I said, wait a minute, if I count backwards, like I wanted to break a cycle that is so deep and embedded in my lineage that I didn't have the appropriate tools to do it. I didn't even know how to. I just knew I didn't want to be a single mom. And so when I hear you say that and about communicating things to your child, it's the same thing I do with my boys. It's like I tell them this is not easy. I tell them when we're struggling. Like I'm just yesterday I was having a conversation with my son. I'm like, you know what? I might need to take a job, like things like that. So that I understand like you want to protect them, of course, as your children from all the stresses. So we're not putting that all on them, but we want them to know like we're going through stuff and we're making this work for you, but it's not like you see it. Like the fridge is not just magically full of food. Like there's a process to get the food in there, so that they can begin, which I've been doing, going to the supermarket with him and being like, let's stick to this budget so that he can start like managing money as well. So all of that is, I know that he's going to be so grateful that you're doing that for him and with him.
It's important. I remember last summer, I took him to the beach for 5 days here in Texas, which is not, it's like a lago. It's like the lake. Actually, this beach was the nicest Texas beach that we have. Um, and I had to work in the morning and I took him to the pool and I'm there working and he's just like, well, you're working and we're on vacation. And I'm like, what? I'm working a couple of hours while you're in the pool. Like, yeah, very aggravating. Um, very aggravating. And then one last thing. He wanted some Jordans. And they're like a couple $100s. And I was like, well, okay, Bray, I don't want to use my money to pay for that. I'll pay for half. And he was like, okay, I'll work for the other half. So I'm like, okay, cool. But then I'm like, hold on, but you're like still growing. Why would we waste that much money when your foot's not even growing? And I was like, Bray, and that's just not, that's crazy. Like, that's not what I'm going to do as a single mom is just throw away money. Like, yeah, so we still have to have that conversation, but showing him the value of it. Like, yeah, I want you to have nice things. I want you to have some things that you want. And we need to be mindful of how we're doing that and make sure that it makes sense for our long-term goals.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. Making it make sense for them, right?
Hmm.
Like explaining it in a way that it's like, like Jordans would be great to have, but your foot is going to grow within a few months. Like you're not going to have it for that long. And yeah, so that's a whole thing too, because I was never into anything, expensive brand growing up. I didn't even care, but that's me as a person. And there's kids nowadays that are like, I want this, I want that, and you're like, but wait a minute, I want you to conceptualize this and, focus on how this is gonna, how this is gonna work and for how long for you. So thank you, Ashton. This was amazing. And I know that many of our viewers and our listeners are going to connect with all the things that you shared today. This is Dr. Soyla Quesada, and I am your host, and this is Two Kids, One Doctorate. I appreciate your time listening to this, and I will check you out, or you will check us out at the next episode. Take care.